beliefs that were responsible for the creation of these. Different schools are as follows. 1. Deduction based only on religious texts. Ahmad ibn Hanbal was an imam of this line of thinking, and today this approach is adopted by the al-Hadith who consider that their sole responsibility is guarding the heritage of traditions. They are not concerned with the depth of the meanings of narrations and whether they are authentic or not. In the present age these people are called Salafi. The Hanbalis followed this method in deriving Islamic practical laws also. According to their view, it was not allowed to contemplate and ponder upon religious problems and to question them as heresy. It is heretical to have discussions on these matters. They considered discourses of traditions necessary for themselves, but, as far as discussions on them was concerned, it was absolutely forbidden. They considered only their method to be the correct obedience, and all types of contemplation and pondering to be heretical. All their efforts were aimed at only collection and compilation of all the traditions that have come on the matters of beliefs etc. They also explained the meanings of their words and compiled the chains the narrators of traditions. Anything beyond this was neither necessary nor permissible. Thus, the same approach is adopted in the books of Bukhari, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Ibn Khuzaymah Bayhaqi and Ibn Qutayba. The level of radicalism of these people is evident from the way they have prohibited scholasticism and logical thinking in matters of belief. Ibn Qutayba even compiled a treatise, Prohibition of Opinion in Scholasticism. Single quote. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal used to say that one who practices scholasticism can never get salvation and such a person is always having hypocrisy. He has severely condemned scholasticism, and the level of his extremism can be gauged from the fact that he broke off relations with Harith Muhasibi, although the latter was a pious and a religious person. The reason for this conflict was that Harith had a written book against heretics. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, while criticizing this book said, "It is regrettable that in your book you have first described the heretics and then you have refuted them. In the process, you gave people the chance to read about the views of heretics and urged them to think upon them, which makes the people inclined to have discussions about it and to express their views." Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was such a radical that he used to say, "Scholastic theologians are irreligious." Zafran says that Imam Shafi'i has given the verdict that scholastic theologians should be whipped and then they should be taken around and exhibited in the tribes so that people come to know that this is the punishment of those who abandon the Quran and traditions and follow scholasticism. The Salafis have followed this same idea right from their inception. They have always claimed that the companions were more aware of the facts in comparison to other people as regard religious matters, and that they were also more knowledgeable about the arrangement of the words. Despite this, they have maintained silence on various matters because they knew that those matters would give rise to evils, and the Holy Prophet had also said, "Those who argue are destroyed, those who argue much are destroyed, those who argue much are destroyed." 4. The Salafis believe in corporeality and comparison in relation to Allah. According to them, predestination means that man does not have any free will, and that he is absolutely helpless in every way. 5. This group allows imitation taqlid in matters of faith and considers the contemplation and deliberation of rules to be unlawful. Dr. Ahmad Mahmud Sabihi writes that neither is imitation possible in matters of faith, nor is it allowed. Whereas Ubaydullah ibn Hassan Ambari in Hashiyah and Taylima, 6 and also Razi 7 in Al-Masul has opposed this, while the majority of the scholars believe that imitation is unlawful in matters of faith. In Shar Tartib, Ostad Abu Ishaq writes that the scholars of truth are unanimous that imitation is not allowed in matters of faith. Imam al-Harmain has written in his book Ash-Shamil that except for the Hanbalis, no one believes in the lawfulness of imitation in principles of faith. But Imam Shawkafi, differing from the majority, has stated that to learn about the principles of belief through proofs and arguments is so difficult that not everyone is capable of resorting to. After that, Shawkafi has refuted the arguments of scholars who do not accept imitation in matters of faith. We are astonished at this essay of Shawkafi. He says that to believe in the fundamentals of religion on the basis of logic and reasoning is an injustice on this ummah. It is a responsibility beyond their capacity. Since many companions did not reach the level of legal deduction ijtihad, they adopted imitation. Taqlid in the matter of beliefs also. For the majority of the people of the Ummah, it is unlawful to employ logical reasoning in the matter of principles of belief, and it will lead to ignorance and deviation. 8. Those having this view consider the study and teaching of logic unlawful, and do not think that it will lead 1. To gain divine recognition, while the science of logic is a science of proofs and reasoning, and it contains the method of arrangement of evidence. The basic principles of this science were mentioned by Aristotle in his book, Organon, and he named them criteria. Among the experts of logic and philosophy in the Islamic world were Farabi, Ibn Sina, Ghazali, Ibn Majah, Ibn Tufayl and Ibn Rushd. To refute the science of logic, the group of the followers of tradition al-Hadith argued that if the science of logic had helped these logicians and philosophers to reach a correct conclusion, there would not have been differences among them. Since there were wide differences in their views and opinions, it cannot be taken as a criterion of truth and falsehood. This group had such a belief during the stage of its inception, and it severely condemned scholasticism and the science of logic. However, later it was compelled to concede its stand to some extent. For example, when we look at a later follower of this school, Ibn Taymiyyah, we see that he is somewhat inclined to scholasticism. He did not consider scholasticism as absolutely unlawful. He says that scholasticism becomes lawful in certain situations, and he himself took the help of scholasticism to refute the views of atheists and apostates. 9. Though Ibn Taymiyyah agreed to scholasticism, he continued his opposition to the science of logic. He also wrote a book Refutation of Logicians. Followers of Ibn Taymiyyah say that the French philosopher Descartes 1596-1650, instead of accepting the logic of Aristotle, formulated some principles of recognizing the right and wrong. He had claimed that one who followed these principles shall be safe from contemplative mistakes and shall reach certainty. But see what happened. Like the logic of Aristotle, the principles of Descartes also could not save one from committing mistakes in mental deductions, and even today man still needs maturity of thought like he was hundreds of years ago. 10. Many Islamic thinkers dislike the logical method. Thus, Imam al-Ghazali, in Tahafat al-Falsafa refuted the views of philosophers through arguments. The basic premise of Ghazali's book is that one cannot rely wholly on reason, because just as reason is constructive it can also cause destruction. Imam Ghazali proves that in the matters of divinity and ethics, the most that reason can do is to provide a conjecture, but it cannot create certainty. Ibn Rushd al-Andalusi died 595 AH wrote Tahafatu Tahafa in refutation of Ghazali, in which he rebutted the views of Ghazali and said that there is no contradiction between correct reasoning and authentic texts. He explained his contention further in his book, Fasl al-Makal Fima Bain al-Hukma Wash Sharia Min al-Itsal. It may be called force of circumstances or a good coincidence that the view presented by Ibn Rushd was the same as that which Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned in his book Mawafia Sari al-Makul li Sahih al-Manakul. We are surprised how Ibn Taymiyyah adopted two contradictory stands in every manner, whether